Dean Kenny, give me some context in all of this from when you arrived 15 years ago to what it is today.
When I was appointed here, I suppose in the sense that I was very happy in my previous parish in Armagh Diocese. I didn't really want to move, but in the church we don't have to move, but a little bit of gentle persuasion was had by the said Bishop of Clogher at that stage, now the Archbishop of Dublin, and I eventually gave way to him and I arrived here at Enniskillen, and not knowing how the people would take me, because I would be quite a community person and involved in a lot of ecumenical work and a lot of community work. But I arrived here and things were quiet, may I say, at that stage, but the parish was vacant for 18 months. And I think during any vacancy, parishes do go down. But when I arrived here, I remember the first night I came here, the institution, there was just 8 members in the choir in this particular side. And I said, oh goodness, this side is empty. We've got to do something about that. And there were several things and organisations just needed a little bit of push.
So let's look at the numbers from when you arrived to where they sit or stand today.
Well, when I arrived, there were 480 families. So I produced a register of 480 families on the books. But I think that time they really only looked at those who were subscribing to the church and didn't really keep all the people on the books, because when you do keep a lot of parishioners on the books, it costs money. So I think they were working really on those that were paying. But that quickly changed. And I opened up the parish to anyone who was living in the parish. We visited people who had dropped off the lists. I got a list of the ones that originally belonged to it and visited every house that I could possibly get to. And the whole parish, it came in October. The whole parish was visited by the end of March. So I tried to encourage people to come back. Over the period of time, from 480 families then, I suppose I've done about just under 400 funerals. And that would have meant about 200, 180, 200 houses would be closed, because that would be the last person in the house to be alive. So that would be down to about 280 or so, and about maybe 30 families have gone adrift. Here, there, and everywhere. But now at the moment we have 600 families, so that would be an intake of 350 families over the 15 years.
A lot of hard work involved in that, I would imagine.
Well, we have a complete open policy. We don't refuse anyone. Everybody's welcome. Doesn't matter where they've been, where they're going, whatever they've done. If they ask me to do something, I will certainly do it. You always get somebody who comes to the church door and says, I would like to talk to you, but I says, forget about the but. Let's talk to you and we'll work around the buts. And we don't refuse anyone. We're totally open policy. It's like the choir, when they first come here, they sort of thought that only the choir members that attend choir practice and regular parishioners could be members of the choir. And he says, no. I says, it's open for all, even those who don't belong to the church. And we started to draft in anybody who could sing, and now we have upwards of 42 full-time members of the choir and 15 part-timers. But the success to that is not me. That is not me. It is the key to who is in charge, and it's really down to the organist in this particular case, that he has made the choir grow. And we've also introduced in the choir choral scholarships, and we have 10 choral scholars. We would pay them for singing lessons, and their commitment would be 39 Sundays per year. We've actually now 4 organ scholars as well, and yesterday and last week one of the organ scholars was playing a hymn on each Sunday, and next 2 weeks the other 2 will be playing.
Very young people too.
Well, the one playing yesterday was 15.
And how is he received?
Very well. They're very well received.
And what enticed him to look at this as a well, I suppose a hobby, really?
Yeah, well, the family is very interested in music, and I suppose that brings them in. And we open up, and we they can come in here through the week and play away at the organ. There's no restriction on that. I know some people wouldn't keep the organ locked up and won't let anybody near it, only the organist. We have totally open. The students come in and they play away themselves.
Was it a very conscious decision to have an open door policy in the church? How important was that in achieving the success and growth that you've enjoyed?
Well, the thing about it is, if you get out into the community, I'm very much a community person. I love mixing with the community, mixing with all types of people. And I go out into the community, all community events, and I meet people, I talk to people, and even at weddings, I always go to all the receptions if I'm asked. I don't turn anybody down. I go to all the parties I'm asked to as well. And that's how you make your contacts. And then when you get contacts with people, they come back to you and they ask you, and they sometimes come and they attend, and then they eventually join. We never force anyone. People come here on Sunday morning. You don't run after them to join, but they know they're welcome, and they eventually become parishioners.
Now, it's not a solo run. It's not a Dean Kenny on his own doing all this. There's a team in full support behind that.
100%. I could not do it without the backing of my people. And whenever I come here, the Mothers Union, and I'm going to invite our Mothers Union branch leader to speak to you as well, because I think she is the key to the success of the Mothers Union. Mothers Union was quite low in the early years, and we appointed some branch leaders, and they were very good, and they built it up so far. But the key to the success is the last branch leader, because it has doubled in numbers, and it's really down to Jennifer Johnson, who has been an exceptional leader with great qualities, and again, a great mixer. And you see, you have to be open and be able to mix with people to bring the people in. And she will go through all of that, but the success of that is down to her, Jennifer Johnson. The success of the choir is down to Glenn Moore. There's another group that has been started in 2022. A girl called Linda Kingston, a teacher, started a parenting wellness group with just 3 families, and now she has 89 families attached to that parenting wellness group. Now, they're not all members of Church of Ireland, they're not all members of the Cathedral, but they all know they're welcome here and they're welcome in our halls. And our halls are open. We have spent 1.3 million on our halls, done a massive development, and they really are a community halls. And I would see this Cathedral Church here too as a community building. It's a town building, open for everyone. And it's a bit like in England, they use universities for graduations. Here we have the local school, the Royal School comes in for their prize giving, and they hold it here in the Cathedral because they don't have an assembly hall big enough. So if you hold events like that, you bring the community right into church.
And bringing the community right into the heart of church life is vitally important. That word outreach must stand high and proud in your vocabulary.
Absolutely, because every year we set aside quite a bit of money each year for home mission, and this is for outreach. And we would get Benefect Trust would help us in that as well. They would generally give towards the building, retention of buildings, but I would use it for more community outreach. And I think they really like that, because it's important that to have cathedrals as a central point in the diocese or a central point in the town where you can outreach to people. Now, I would sponsor a lot of things. We have Message Church. We actually have a supper at 6 on a Thursday, last Thursday every month, where we started that for those who couldn't afford a meal to come along. Now, we're still getting those that can't afford a meal to come along, but suddenly all the widows of the parish now come to that as well because of this company. It's fellowship for them. And we have now up to maybe 80 coming to that supper at 6 on a Thursday. So it's a marvellous occasion for people to come and have fellowship with each other.
And how is this regarded beyond these walls, beyond the cathedral? How do other communities, how do other churches regard the work that's been done here at St. McCarthy's?
Well, I would hope it would be a certain example of what's going on. Just there's certain events in the parish that would attract in people from other churches in the diocese. I see the cathedral as a mother church in the diocese that attracts members from other churches in. Now, we don't ask them to join. They still float in and float out again. There's a service here now. I started service on a Thursday at 11 o'clock, and we would have up to 50 people at that. Now, there wouldn't be all our parishioners. There were people in the town doing shopping, people belong to other churches, but they feel free and welcome to come here, have a short service, half an hour, communion service, and have a cup of tea, bit of fellowship afterwards.
So the church isn't just open one day a week?
No, it is not. The other thing I was going to mention to you, there was a lady, Claire Holmes, who started off a knitting group, just knitting socks in her living room. And she had 4 or 5 people, 6, 7 people. And now there's 30 to 40 people come to that, but they had to move from her living room to her hall because to accommodate the people. So that meets on a Saturday afternoon. So the key to it is our halls are used all the time. There is activities in them every day, and it's to try and generate interest. The other thing I was going to say, the youth organisations. Now, the uniformed organisations of the Guides is at full potential with 80 members. And again, it's down to the leaders who attract the people in there. The Scouts were struggling at about 20 members, but last year they've suddenly doubled now to 40. So that's good input for the years ahead. But again, it's down to having good leaders. Now, what we're struggling on, and it's not all positive, is struggling on is Sunday schools. In Sunday school, we would have, aside of this parish, we should have a Sunday school of around about 100. Now we haven't. We're struggling at the late 40s, about 50 children at Sunday school. And we're not sure how to handle that when we're trying our best to try and encourage parents to send them to school, Sunday school, but that's not really working. We've changed it to Sunday Lights and Sunday Lights Cafe, but we're still only attracting about 50 or less. And it's all down to school sports, and there's so much other activities on a Sunday. Attendance at church is probably not what it should be with the size of the congregation we have, but regular attendance now for people is 2 to 3 weeks. Every 2 to 3 weeks, that's regular for them. It's not regular for me, if I'd love to see them every week. You always have a core of people out every Sunday, but you have those who would worship every 2 to 3 weeks. And sometimes the third Sunday of the month, for some reason, well, this is the highest Sunday. The family service, there will be odd ones take a holiday from church on family service, whereas they should be out with their family. But that's one of the things we have to battle with. But we have a big enough parish that every Sunday there's a big crowd because of the large numbers. But I dearly love them all to turn up at the one Sunday. But that's...
Well, let's focus on the positives. Jennifer, tell me a little bit about the success that you've enjoyed in Mothers Union in the past few years.
I became leader in February 20, just whenever COVID was kicking in. Come March that year, everything had to close down. So my predecessor was Stephanie Hamilton, so she'd obviously gone through everything what the leader does, and now all of a sudden I wasn't able to do that because we weren't having any meetings. So I had to think, well, what can I do to keep all these ladies on board and to make sure they weren't going to be forgotten about? So we have 40 ladies, so I divided it up that I took 20 ladies, and my secretary at that time was Sally Masterson. She took 10, and the treasurer was Maud Shaw, and she took 10. And we rang these ladies throughout the COVID period. And about 3 times in that period, I rang every lady. So just to make sure that they were being looked after, was there anything that they needed? And throughout that time, we delivered little gifts to them on the doorstep. And we had 2 significant birthdays that year of COVID, but we didn't forget about them. And again, we went, took photographs, and we were able to put that into our parish magazine. I think the whole thing about being a leader is making people feel welcome. I would be a bit of a chatter, and I'm known to chat, but I am also known for others' lack of skills like cooking and sewing and baking, and the ladies all know that I don't do those things. So that is not a criteria to become a member of the Mothers Union or a criteria to become a leader of the Mothers Union. All skills are welcome. As I always say, there's a lot of cogs in the wheel, and we need all those cogs to work in order to make Mothers Union a success.
So from a very low ebb, from a very low number, you've now grown exponentially.
Yes, after COVID, and obviously word had got around throughout the parish at what Mothers Union did do, and we enrolled 17 members after that. So that was our biggest enrolment. Last year, the Dean allowed me to speak at a morning service, just to explain about Mothers Union. It wasn't all about making tea and buns. So I just got up, no notes, no nothing, but I just spoke from the heart. And from that, I think we had another 8 or 9 ladies enrolled. So we're getting, 8, 9, 10 ladies now. And we have another few who have approached me to say that they'd love to come now in January. So hopefully that will increase our numbers for next year.
And what will that bring the overall number up to?
Well, at the minute we have 80. So if we get a few more, we'll be hopefully hitting mid-80s maybe. Maybe I'll get to 90 by the end of the year. I don't know, maybe that's just a wee bit
But
presumptuous.
you're already the largest mothers union in the island of Ireland.
Well, so I'm told, yes, and that is a great honour to know that you're leading a branch that is the largest in Ireland. But it's just not down to me. You know, I've got great support from my secretary, who is now Adele Moore, and Maud Shaw still is the treasurer. I also have got support from all of the ladies within the Mothers Union, and obviously this would not happen without the Dean. The Dean is very supportive. He, no matter what I approach him about, can we do this? Can we do that? No problem. Go ahead, do it. And we just introduced little things. You know, we had a Valentine's Day. Our Mothers Union was on the 14th of February. So we went and got everybody a little bag of heart chocolates. And one lady then had a little surprise because there was something under her chair. Everybody had something under their chair, and she won a bouquet of flowers. So some of those ladies, that was really a big thing for them to get chocolates and bring them back to their youth.
It's all about dismissing this preconceived idea about Mothers Union that it's well, stereotypically people who just want to knit and sew and have tea.
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, I don't have any of those qualities. I can chat. I am a good organizer as well, but I've got a great team behind me, and that's what makes it a success. You know, we are in the throes of preparing for a beetle drive, which is going to take place in January, and that is for the Parish family. So we want people to come out with their kiddies, with their grandchildren, whatever. We're going to have a night out, we're going to have some supper, and we're going to have a bit of fun. And at our meetings as well, I open it all to the parish. It's not necessarily for always Mothers Union members to come along. And we've had like beekeeping where men have come along. In October there, we had Glenn Moore talking about the history of his thatched cottage that he and his family live in. And again, there was men at that. So we open it up to everybody. It's just not Mothers Union only every Monday in the month.
Edwin, you're here a couple of years, a little over a couple of years. What's your impression of this cathedral parish as distinct from the place where you came from in Dublin?
It's very different, I think, in many ways to work in a cathedral which has a parish and has a sort of a fairly full range of growing parish organisations, ministry and outreach to so many different people, to the old people, young, male and female, people with different and varied interests. It's lovely too that we're so integrated as the parish for the town into the town and the life of the town, and there's all sorts of opportunities to take part in civic events and in all sorts of things that go on in the town. I think it's also wonderful that our parish facilities like the hall are so widely used by so many different groups that in many ways are nothing to do with the church, but we like to sort of pass through and show them that we're here as well and that we're a presence in the town.
Outreach is vitally important. You're a key component of the life of Enniskillen, the county town of Enniskillen. Your engagement is full and comprehensive. Is that an important aspect of the work that you do and the work that the church does?
Absolutely. I mean, as part of Christ Church, outreach is very much in our DNA. Christ came to earth to reach out to the people, and we are continuing that work 2,000 years later. And we like to think we're continuing in lots of different ways. We've got things like Scouts and the guides, things like that. We've got Tuesday Club for people who are senior citizens. We've got a choir to beautify the town with music. We have a range of services for people to come to. We like to think we're trying to play our full part in Christ's mission of outreach and Missio Deo to the world.
You must be heartened. You must feel job well done. Is there much more that can be done?
Oh yes, will you have to keep going. You must keep going, but once you stop the wheel turning, then everything slows down. You have to keep on the move. And I would try, and I have a curate now as well, Edwin Aiken, and he's very good too. And we try to get around as many houses as possible. We still do an active campaign of visiting. And I think that that's important too, knocking doors. But the biggest thing here is going into the community, mixing in the community and bringing the community into church.
And the future?
The future looks good, but the future for me may not look good because I'm near the end of the line. But no, do another couple of years. But I'd love to be starting again.
Dean Kenny, thank you very much indeed.